week has the potential to prove beyond doubt that the Democrat Party, the left, the American media are bankrupt. They are bankrupt of everything good. They are bankrupt of everything decent. And in the process, folks, they are doing such damage to America. I want to elaborate on this a bit. They are doing such damage to the Constitution, but it is America it is our country that is being damaged here in ways that I don't think it's out of line to say. It's damaged in ways that few people ever thought would actually happen internally. We are about to witness behavior that should shock everyone. I think that the true face, if it hasn't been already, of the radical left is about to be revealed in Technicolor. Now, I think it already has been, but it's obvious that not everybody sees the radical left for who it is, what it is, and who they are. It is ugly. And it is typified by Michael Avenatti. He is the lawyer for Stormy Daniels. And out of the blue last night, he starts a Twitter storm claiming to represent a woman with credible information regarding Judge Kavanaugh and this guy, Mark Judge. And he claims that Kavanaugh and Mark Judge, are you ready for this? He claims that Kavanaugh and Mark Judge routinely at parties in high school and college got women drunk and gave them pills so as to start a rape train. And he is demanding the opportunity to present testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee and will be demanding that Mark Judge, and others be subpoenaed to testify to this. And then claims that the nomination, or demands that the nomination must be withdrawn. What is happening here is right in front of our faces, the destruction of America. And by that, I'm talking about primarily the education system. I think is where it starts. The greatest evidence for this, and folks, I have to tell you, I've got butterflies here. I'm call it nervousness. It's not nervousness. It's not performance pressure. It's not that I'm nervous over what I'm saying. That it's happening. That this is happening has my gut in knots. It literally does. It has my stomach in knots. My heart rate is elevated. I happen to know that because I wear an Apple Watch which calculates it. And I am in touch with my heart rate on a moment's notice. And it's elevated right now. It's in rhythm, don't worry, but it's elevated. One of the bedrock principles of America, one of the many things enshrined in our Constitution that sets America apart from everywhere else, is in our law, in our jurisprudence, the rule of law, and the concept that anybody charged with anything is innocent until proved guilty. Now, I know it's been bastardized, and I know at times it's been stood upside down on its head in court as lawyers engage in tricks with juries and so forth. I mean, that's one thing. This is an institutional assault that is taking place. And the Democrat Party is literally in charge of this. And essentially, whenever politics is involved, and they've politicized everything, whenever politics is involved, the accused is automatically guilty and must prove his or her innocence. The accuser is automatically believed, unquestionably automatically believed. This stands the rule of law on its head, and the reason is it's impossible to prove a negative. It's impossible to prove you didn't do it, particularly in courts of law. Because you're asking, if you're innocent, it's very difficult to prove a negative. Ask Kavanaugh how that's going. But to turn this upside down, as they are doing, and what it essentially is saying is that if you are conservative, you are guilty if we accuse you. That's the starting point. And the starting point is such that it's not even worth your time to defend yourself, because it doesn't matter. We say you did it. We say you're guilty. We say you're a rapist. We say you are a serial abuser. We say that you got women drunk and gave them pills to begin rape trains at parties. You're guilty. And you have to go. You must leave. You must withdraw. Your supporters must withdraw their nomination of you. This is the destruction of our rule of law and the American jurisprudence system on steroids. And the thing about all of this, folks, the left, this is the real depressing part of this to me. They've got nothing to lose with this behavior. They have nothing to lose with this politics, and everything to gain by it. And what does that say about our country and where it is? Their lunatic, deranged base is applauding this. In fact, I would go so far as to say their lunatic base may be driving this. Their base voters, the people they are counting on to win the House and the Senate, are applauding this. They are applauding the turning upside down of the rule of law. They are applauding the literal destruction of innocent lives and great reputations. They are applauding it, and they are demanding it. And the Democrats who participate in it will be rewarded for doing so, and there will be no penalty to them. In their minds, all of America agrees with them. Well, a majority. This is another sick thing. In their minds, and these Democrats in the Senate, Democrats everywhere, they think that a majority of Americans agrees with them and now accepts that Kavanaugh is a reprobate. Even though the evidence from either Ballsy Ford or this other woman, whatever her name is, Ramirez, even though none of it can be proven, none of it can be established, and everybody claimed to be a witness says they weren't there in both instances, the Democrats still believe a majority of Americans agree with them and support this because they believe a majority of Americans want no conservatives anywhere near any elected position or appointed position of power. I believe that this is a ramification of the fact that America, the United States of America, as an entity, as a country, our Constitution, our founding documents, the greatness, the uniqueness, the specialness, the exceptionalism of America is not taught starting in kindergarten and hasn't been taught for a couple of generations. Instead, America is bashed all over education. America is criticized as unjust, unfair, racist/slave. It is portrayed as anti-woman, anti-gay, anti-minority. It is portrayed as a nation founded by and established for white men who discriminate and mistreat everybody else. It's been that way for 250 years, and it's time to overthrow it. And that's what we're witnessing. And for 2 generations, they've been educating people toward this, that America is at fault. So many of the bedrock principles that distinguish America are going. Some of them are gone already. Among the biggest, as I mentioned, is that the accused now has to prove innocence when politics is involved. And since they are politicizing everything, it means all they have to do is level an allegation. And here come their buddies in the media treating it as though it is gospel, treating it as though it is irrefutable, treating it as though it cannot be denied, it cannot be questioned, it must be accepted, and you must love the accuser to boot. So now every accused conservative must establish innocence. They don't have to prove anything. Their allegation alone is enough to get rid of anybody. And their base voters demand it. Their base voters applaud it. This is the result of this new shift away from the accuser has to prove guilt. And we saw it when when Ballsy Ford's lawyer said she didn't have to corroborate anything. She didn't have to prove anything. It's up to Kavanaugh to prove that he didn't do it. Again, when Harry Reid accused Mitt Romney of not paying his taxes. Harry Reid said, a friend of mine told me that Romney hadn't paid taxes in 10 years. The press said, what's your evidence? And Reid got mad at him. What do you mean, what's my evidence? You need to go ask Romney why he hasn't paid his taxes in 10 years. And off they were to ask Mitt Romney why he hadn't paid his taxes in 10 years. Shortly after, they had just finished asking Romney if he believes states should have the right to ban contraception. When such a thing had never been brought up, nobody believes that, supports that, but they made sure that everybody thought Romney wanted that. So distorted. They have so distorted American education. To young people, you know what American justice is? To young people, the American system of justice is destroying conservatives. However, whenever, that's what legions of young people have been taught that justice is. They've been taught in high school. They've been taught in middle school. They've probably been conditioned to believe such things as early as kindergarten, certainly when they get to what are called institutions of higher learning, academe. This is what they've been taught justice is. And so now we've got another accuser, as predicted, and right on cue. As soon as this second accuser, and by the way, Ronan Farrow and Jane Mayer are behind this story. Ronan Farrow and Jane Mayer at the New Yorker. And somebody asked Ronan Farrow, how'd you hear about this woman? And he said, the Democrat Party has been looking for him. He admitted the Democrat Party has been trying to find them. And the Democrat Party found this woman and called me. They've been looking for... Well, this was also as predictable as the sun coming up in the morning. And now, all kinds of senators are demanding that Kavanaugh withdraw. And they're demanding that Trump withdraw the nomination. They're demanding Kavanaugh quit. He can't go forward. He will forever be sullied. There will forever be a cloud. It just would make more sense if Kavanaugh just quit. Senator Feinstein, who's behind all of this, Senator Gillibrand, Senator Jeff Merkley, Democrat, Oregon, Senator Claire McCaskill, Missouri. They believe that there are legions of independent voters that just can't wait to show up at the polls in November and vote Democrat because Americans are tired of sexual predators like Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh being appointed to the Supreme Court because predators like these don't care about women's rights, especially abortion. And so they've got to go. They're even saying that if somehow Kavanaugh gets on the court and they win in the House and the Senate, they're going to investigate him and they're going to impeach him. Now you add Avenatti to this. I won't give details of all these new charges as the program unfolds, but I wanted to set the table and establish the umbrella under which everything is happening today. Now with this Avenatti guy, Stormy Daniels' lawyer, calling the Senate Judiciary Committee staff. He sent them an email demanding to be heard. Represents a woman. Not Ramirez and not Ballsy Ford. He's got another woman with credible information regarding Kavanaugh and Mark Judge that they were getting women drunk and plying them with pills at parties in order to start rape trains for the guys at these parties. I'll make you another prediction. Christine Ford, Dr. Ford, will not testify Thursday. That is the latest. She's scheduled to. You've seen that. It's not going to happen. She's not going to testify. And you can tell right off the bat why. With these new allegations, she can easily say, this has become a circus. I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. I don't think it's why. Her lawyer will say all this. Probably sometime on Wednesday. So Chairman Grassley has a job to do here. Because if he gives Democrats enough time, they'll produce a woman claiming to be Kavanaugh's secret Russian wife, who Trump paid to urinate on that bed in Moscow. If Grassley waits long enough, the Democrats will come up with the woman claiming to be Kavanaugh's secret Russian wife. He's a bigamist too, don't you know? And Trump paid Kavanaugh's second wife to hire a bunch of prostitutes to urinate on the bed Obama slept in while in Moscow. If Grassley doesn't get a handle on this and just do... And I'll tell you something else, which everybody also knows. If the Republicans do not get this vote taken and have Kavanaugh confirmed, you can kiss the midterms goodbye. You can kiss goodbye holding the House, and you can kiss goodbye holding the Senate. Because whatever the Democrats think of their base, the one thing I know is that if you guys fold on this and cave and keep bending over backwards, you've done that enough. You've demonstrated that you don't hate women. You've demonstrated that you're open-minded. You've demonstrated that you want to hear from her. You're never going to hear from her. She's never going to show up. She's not telling a story that can be verified, Senator Grassley. She's not going to show up. If you guys don't conduct this vote in defiance of all this, and if Avenatti gets 1 foot in the door to a Senate committee to start telling his story, then you can kind of kiss goodbye Republican chances in the midterms in November. Because people are going to logically say, what good does it do? We'll take a brief time out. Rosenstein next, I know, back after this.
Doing the work that the mainstream American media just won't do. Rush on the EIB network.
Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
So I checked the email during the break, and somebody said, but Mr. Limbaugh, don't Democrats have sons? Are they not worried about what they're doing to their own sons by running around trashing every conservative white male they can find? Yeah, they have sons. But what are they creating with their sons? They also have daughters, you see. And they're conditioning their daughters to believe that normal male behavior is abuse and harassment. I'm not denying abuse and harassment happens, and I'd probably say that it happens more often than you and I would think in circumstances like parties and in high school, college, this kind of thing, things that women think are. But what the Democrats are doing are trying to condition women to believe that just traditional male behavior constitutes abuse and harassment. And if you're a guy running around thinking that's what you are, what then will become of your behavior? You wuss out. Somebody asked me in an email, Rush, sounds like you don't believe the second and third accusers here. Really? What was your first clue? This is a charade here. It's an absolute charade. It was a predictable charade. It was predictable last Thursday that there was going to be another woman coming forward, particularly after a Washington Post reporter pretty much let it be known, Karen Tumulty. This was not a tough prediction. Now, this next accuser, Debbie Ramirez, her story doesn't hold water. In fact, the New York Times, you ready for this? The New York Times doesn't even want to run this story because they think it is so lacking. There isn't any confirmation. There's no corroboration. And even Ronan Farrow said that the reason the woman came forward because the Democrats went out and tried looking for these women, trying to find these women. Debbie Ramirez, who is this one. By the way, Debbie Ramirez's story involves, look what they're doing to this program. Look what is that dildo? It involves a dildo. Brett Kavanaugh was using a dildo in people's faces, according to this story. Decent people have really no idea how to deal with this. Decent people don't sit around strategizing how to deal with this kind of depravity. Maybe we should, but people don't. And depravity and this kind of thing is just second nature to the Democrats and their base. Anyway, Debbie Ramirez's lawyer is, you ready for it? A major Democrat donor and activist who has given thousands of dollars to Hillary Clinton, as well as donations to Democrat members of the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing the Kavanaugh case. There are Democrat donors, there are Democrat activists at every level of these allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. So now we have Kavanaugh, who, by the way, has underwent 6 FBI background checks. 6 of them. So let me ask a question. 6 FBI background checks. How does the FBI not find somebody who lived very close to you for every address you had in your life? How does the FBI not find the dildo and the rape train stories and the women who claim that Kavanaugh and his friend drugged them and got them drunk and set these trains up? How does the FBI miss every aspect of this story? How do they miss the Christine Ballsy Ford story in 6 FBI background? Have you ever undergone an FBI background? Or have you ever had the FBI come to you as somebody who knows somebody who's under investigation? Have you ever had the FBI question you? They are very thorough. Do not doubt me. And yet the FBI turned up nothing. And so what are we hearing from these latest Jack-in-the-Box pop-ups? Demands for an FBI investigation. And, of course, when the whole idea of that is poo-pooed, then they say, see, they know he's guilty, and they don't want the FBI to find it. He needs to withdraw, and Trump needs to withdraw the nomination. That's how this all works. Now, let's move forward to Rod Rosenstein. Let me tell you what this is. You know, I believe in brevity. Brevity is the soul of wit. What we know is what we have suspected. What has been confirmed with the New York Times story on Rosenstein suggesting Trump be recorded to show his unsuitable nature for the presidency, Rosenstein volunteering to wear a wire. What we know is that there was, and probably still is, a movement at the highest levels of the Department of Justice and the Obama administration to undermine the campaign and then to overthrow Donald Trump, to undo the election results of 2016, call it a silent coup, which many people have. There's no question now that this was ongoing and is. That's what all of this leads to. We have Lisa Page, Peter Strzok Smirk, Nellie and Bruce Orr. We've got McCabe and we have Comey. And we have all the evidence we need that there was a cabal of people in the deep state attempting to overthrow the duly elected president, Donald Trump. And they have been engaged in this since before Trump was elected, because the efforts then were to make sure he didn't win the election. This cannot be disputed now. And we now know that the appointment of Robert Mueller is as suspect as we ever thought it was, as unnecessary, and as totally, purely political as we always thought it was. And now we know that it's falling apart. Now we know that it's being exposed. Now we know that the conspirators here in the deep state who were at the bottom of this effort have lost control of it. It is unraveling on them, and they have been exposed for doing what they were doing. And the press is now busy trying to cover that up, which is what the Mueller investigation's primary objective actually is. The secondary objective of the Mueller investigation, very close to the primary, is to continue to look for ways that might persuade the American people to drop their support for Trump so that he can be sent packing. That objective is still real. It's still being pursued. The Rosenstein story basically is the New York Times came out with a story that Rosenstein had volunteered or suggested wearing a wire during a trip to the White House to try to get evidence that Trump was deranged, insane, unfit, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually for the presidency. To take that tape, or those tapes, however many it took, to the cabinet, and then suggest to them that it's time to invoke the 25th Amendment. The president is unfit, and you, the cabinet, must agree that he has to go. So when the news hit, Rosenstein issues a denial that is half-hearted and not specific. Then, in an attempt to cover for this, Rosenstein's friends leaked that it was just a bunch of people sitting around joking. That nobody ever really intended for anybody to wear a wire, much less Rosenstein. That they were talking about how unfit Trump is, but they were talking about the futility they felt in dealing with it. They felt powerless, so goes the story, to get rid of Trump, even though they all felt he was unfit, although they all felt he was dangerous and had no business being anywhere near the Oval Office or anything else. And the story is that Rosenstein said in frustration, mock frustration to the rest of the group, well, what do you want me to do, wear a wire? And so this gets reported as a joke. Rosenstein says it's a joke. But Michael Schmidt from the New York Times, who wrote the story, is adamant that nobody was joking about this and that they were intending to do it. Now, there's a side aspect of this story. The Washington Post and New York Times are at odds over this. And they are both part of the deep state. The Washington Post has a different take on this. What I think would be helpful here is to understand Rosenstein and who he is and what inspires him. Rosenstein is one of these guys in Washington who has led his professional life in such a way as to be respected by everybody in both parties. Meaning he's a wuss. Meaning he will say whatever he has to say to whatever group of people, Democrat or Republican, depending, to get their approval, get their support. And the proof that he succeeded in that was the confirmation vote for his appointment to Deputy Attorney General was like 96-4 or some such thing. Remember when he was appointed, you may not, but when he was appointed, remember how everybody in the media in Washington had a great big sigh of relief because finally a fair and honest, reputable guy was going to be at the Department of Justice putting the brakes on this unpredictable, dangerous Trump. Then Trump even got some applause for hiring Rosenstein because he's such a great guy, so honorable. I mean, he's almost as honorable as Mueller, but not quite, but it's a close race. And it's all come back to bite him because Rosenstein has done far more to curry favor with Democrats than Republicans because the Democrats run that town in terms of everybody's estimation. So the drive-bys were breathless today when word leaked that Rosenstein was on his way to the White House. Now, Trump's not there. Trump is in New York at the United Nations. Rosenstein was up there. The word went out that Rosenstein knew he was going to be fired, so he wanted to get in front of it and announce his resignation, which means, if it's true, that Rosenstein wanted to play the victim. Rosenstein wanted everybody to think that he was being valiant and courageous and willing to fall on the sword, even though it was unnecessary. But he was not going to allow this reprobate to fire him. He was going to be bigger. He was going to be principled. He wasn't going to wait to be fired. He was going to resign, as in you, President Trump. So he called the chief of staff, John Kelly, and the story is that he resigned on the phone and then drove up there with his SUV Caravan to submit his resignation in writing. Now, we don't know what's happened. All we know is that he met with the chief of staff. There have been arguments back and forth since the New York Times story hit with Rosenstein wanting to tape Trump, that Trump should not fire the guy. A lot of people, don't fire him, Mr. President. I know he should be fired. I know it's the thing to do, but don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it because it's a trick. It's a trick. They're all tricking you to try to get you to fire him so that it looks like you're obstructing justice right before the midterm election. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Even Professor Dershowitz said, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Now, Trump admittedly is between a rock and a hard place. He's got his deputy attorney general not denying that they were talking about wearing a wire to record him in meetings in his office. There was ever a justifiable firing, this is it. But we still don't know what the end result of this is. We have to take a break here. We'll come back a little bit more on this, some detail with some of these second and third accusers in the Kavanaugh case, and then your phone calls are coming up. All that right after these.
For your convenience, broadcasting almost 100% in English with just a little Spanish lingo. Rush on the EIB network.
Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
You remember the Rolling Stone story? They were nearly sued out of business on all the false rape stories that had occurred at the university. Remember that? A woman wrote that story. She made it up, and she admitted she made it up because it's a serious thing, rape on campus. Even though she had no evidence of it, people needed to know how bad it was. So she made it all up, wrote stories about it. Rolling Stone ran it anyway, defended it after the fact. Now, they were practically sued out of existence. Well, this New Yorker story is being reacted to, even by the left, in much the same way. The New York Times can't confirm any of it. And are beginning to ask, why did it run? Why did it run? Ronan Farrow says, in answer to the question, new Kavanaugh accuser came forward because Democrats came looking. Meaning Democrats came to me wanting to know if there are any women. They came looking for women. They were putting out feelers for women to come forward. The story cannot be confirmed. None of the witnesses can be confirmed as having known or been anywhere near when this dildo was supposedly rubbed in people's faces. And yet the story runs. There are holes throughout this story. The New Yorker could not find a single witness who put Kavanaugh at this alleged party. The New York Times could not find a single person who could corroborate Ramirez's claims. And in fact, Ross Douthat, who is a columnist at the New York Times, has tweeted, seems odd that neither the New Yorker nor my newspaper, the New York Times, could get any of these Yaleys, this all happened at Yale, any of these Yaleys to confirm the story. Why is that odd? Why is it odd that neither the New Yorker nor the New York Times could find any confirmation? Maybe it's odd to him because he can't believe the story ran. If there aren't any corroborating witnesses, if there's no corroboration whatsoever, maybe that's what's odd about it. Seems odd that neither the New Yorker nor my newspaper get any of these Yaleys to confirm their story. Well, only if you think it's an abomination the story ran despite that. A third person that Ramirez claimed was at the party says she was not there for the alleged incident. Ramirez contacted her former classmates asking about the incident, admitted she was not sure that Kavanaugh was the guy who exposed himself. A woman who claims she was best friends with Ramirez says Ramirez never mentioned this story and initially said that her friend's accusations against Kavanaugh might be politically motivated. There's nothing to it. But yet here are the Democrats demanding Kavanaugh resign because in their new world, he's guilty. She cannot be making it up. She does not have to prove it. Simply the fact she's alleged it about a conservative is all we need to get rid of the conservative. He cannot defend himself. He shouldn't even be allowed to defend himself. And it's the same thing with Ballsy Ford. Here's Dershowitz jumping back now to Rosenstein. Dershowitz today. I'm sorry, this is Saturday on CNN with Michael Smerconish. The question, what will President Trump do regarding Rosenstein now?
If he's smart, he'll take advantage of this and not fire any of these people, not Mueller, not Rosenstein, and not Sessions. We ought to have hearings on this, put him under oath, put the other people who are in the room under oath. But what he could do very plausibly is have his lawyers go to court and make a motion to recuse Rosenstein from any involvement in any case involving the president because he has a conflict of interest. I think a court would look seriously on a motion to recuse, and that wouldn't make it into a Saturday night massacre.
They're really worried that if Trump fires this guy, that it's going to be damaging for the midterms, because it will allow people to claim that Trump's obstructing justice, the same old saw. Dershowitz's reasoning is pretty solid. I have to tell you also that we still don't know whether Rosenstein's quit or been fired. It turns out this meeting at the White House today was previously scheduled. There was nothing unique about the meeting today. It was already on the calendar. So the media already running off and jumping off the cliff with things that they don't even know. I thought this was odd. Trump's not there. Why go up there? He's not there today. He's up in New York. Now there's a story that Trump is going to be talking to Rosenstein at some point. Do we have time for Lindsey Grahamnesty? No, we don't. But Lindsey Grahamnesty admits there's a coup going on, but he's also of the mind not to fire Rosenstein for the political reasons. Just says, leave him alone, leave him alone. Rosenstein's doing the country a great disservice by not appointing a special counsel to look into it. How many special counsels do we need to know what we already know? Special counsel here, special counsel there. What, another 3 years to find out what we already know?
Rush Limbaugh, simply brilliant on the EIB network.
Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
And here we are back at it. Rush Limbaugh, great to have you with us, my friends, kicking off yet another exciting week of broadcast excellence. Our telephone number, if you want to join us, is 800-282-2882. And, of course, you can send an email, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Okay, so the media just made something up again. Just took a germ of a story and blew it up into something that was not true. There was a regularly scheduled meeting at the White House today between Rosenstein and the chief of staff, and I don't know who else was in the meeting. But I guess the drive-bys didn't know that, or if they did know that, they chose not to incorporate that knowledge into their story because they immediately this morning, upon learning that Rosenstein was going to the White House, began speculating that it was to resign, that Rosenstein was going to resign before Trump could fire him, because Rosenstein wasn't going to give Trump the power. He wasn't going to give Trump the privilege. He was going to play the victim. He was going to make it look like Trump was forcing another good guy out. The only problem is that Rosenstein was not going to the White House to resign. He was going to the White House for a regularly scheduled meeting, or a previously scheduled meeting with the chief of staff over what? I have no idea. It turns out now that and they had a camera parked at the entrance to the White House where Rosenstein et al. Would be arriving. And sure as here came the SUV caravan with Rosenstein in one of the SUVs, and the media got more breathless and more breathless. Here comes Rosenstein to fall on his sword. Here comes Rosenstein to resign. And then the meeting was over, and they didn't report that Rosenstein resigned, nor did they report that Rosenstein was fired. They just reported that Rosenstein had left the White House, or was still there, what have you. This takes me to audio sound bites 4 and 5 last night on C-SPAN. Brian Lamb interviewed the chief White House correspondent, Major Garrett. It's called C-SPAN's Q&A. Major Garrett, who used to be at Fox, and prior to that used to be at the Associated Press, has a new book. It's entitled Mr. Trump's Wild Ride. And to set things up, Brian Lamb introduced and played a clip of me.
One of the places that you can find enormous criticism of the mainstream media is on talk radio. This is what they say almost every day about what you do at CBS.
The media is playing to the unstable. They are playing to the infirm. They're playing to the loosely coagulated in the brain. That was me from May the 18th of 2018 this year. That's a pretty good line, don't you think? Those loosely coagulated in the brain. So Brian Lamb plays that clip as evidence that talk radio is really, really hard on the drive-by media. Very, very critical. And here's what Major Garrett said in his answer.
Credibility as defined by Democrats, Republicans, and independents for the last decade before 2016 was on a steady descent. And what was happening simultaneously? Market share was also decreasing. I ask out loud repeatedly, is that a coincidence or a cause? And our industry, I think, has got to come to terms with that. I understand some of that's a trope. Some of that is said for marketing purposes for our critics. But if it had no basis, it wouldn't work. And it does work, and we have to ask ourselves why.
So Major Garrett is admitting that my criticism of the media, nor anybody else's, wouldn't work if it wasn't true. So he is suggesting that talk radio's criticism of the drive-by media has basis in fact. You know, these people, this is one little observation here. I'm seeing this more and more often, that I do, or others do, what we do for marketing purposes. Now, that's a new way of saying what they've always said, which is, we say outrageous things that we know our audiences want to hear. And so we are simply satisfying the demands of our audience. No. That's the Democrat Party, Major. And by the way, I applaud your answer. Don't misunderstand. It's the Democrat Party that for marketing purposes, and maybe the Republicans too, but there's no marketing here. I have never judged what I think you want to hear and then said it. It would be impossible. There are too many of you who have too many different opinions about things. It would be impossible. The person that tries to be everything to everybody is Rod Rosenstein. And look what that gets you. And there are other examples of it, too. But you can't please everybody, and yet there are countless phonies in this world whose entire reputations is made up of just that, trying to please everybody. There's no marketing here. And, marketing is a strategy. Marketing, I've been in marketing. I worked at marketing for the Kansas City Royals. And marketing has a distinct pattern to it. It has a plan, and it has an objective. And it is strategy. And it oftentimes is designed, well, it's always designed to separate people from their money. Not that that's a bad thing, like selling baseball tickets or football tickets or selling anything. They're a marketing strategy. Apple has marketing strategies behind the products that they sell. There's no marketing here. I just show up every day, tell you what I think. I don't strategize it. I never bring Mr. Snerdley in. Mr. Snerdley, if I say this, what do you think the audience reaction is going to be? Never once. I don't do it. Never have done it. That's actually, well, I think that's true. I think they do know better than anybody that I don't do that, and that is why this program has such credibility with its audience. Another email during the break. Mr. Limbaugh, how did you know? Because Twitter, all weekend I saw people saying on Twitter that you predicted this. You predicted another woman would come forward. How did you know? How did you know? Well, let's go back to the audio sound bites. This is last Thursday, me on my program. I'm telling you right now, it's already in the works. And I know it's in the works because I heard a drive-by media person talking about it. A drive-by media person was Karen Tumulty of the Washington Post, who says she wouldn't be surprised if more women surface over the weekend alleging similar acts by Kavanaugh, which she's just telegraphed that they're out there trying to find women that they can convince to come forward and say what they want them to say. You know they're working on that. You know that the Democrat Party, you know that the media, they're working in tandem. They are scouring women who went to the same school or went to school where Kavanaugh was seen, lurking around and so forth. And they're going to try to find as many women, not too many, find one or two women to come forward and say, yeah, I didn't want to come forward, but I'm watching what's happening to Christine Blasey Ford and I can't stand it. And so don't be surprised. Well, and it's happened, but I said no great shakes here. Predicting this was, if you know the left, as I do, It was simple, and even buttress it further. Ronan Farrow, new Kavanaugh accuser, came forward because Democrats came looking. What did I say here? You know, the Democrats, the media, they're working in tandem, scouring women who went to the same screwl or went to screwl where Kavanaugh was seen. Farrow confirms even that. The accuser came forward because the Democrats came looking, and they didn't have to look hard. This woman is a recipient of George Soros funds. Every one of these people, one way or the other, is connected to Hillary Clinton or her campaign. Every one of them. All of this is ultimately going to be traceable back to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. You mark my words. And here is Karen Tumulty, just to show you that this is what... I didn't even need this. I didn't even need this to tell me that it was going to be another woman show up before today. But this is Karen Tumulty last Wednesday night on the All-Star Panel special report, Brett Baer.
The thing I think we all need to remember is that we still have 4.5 days until Monday. And the way the news cycle works in these times, this whole thing is probably going to take 5 or 6 twists and turns. Right. There may be other people coming out of the woodwork either to verify what Judge Kavanaugh is saying or to back up what she is saying. By Monday, this could look like a very different situation.
Bingo, and here we are at Monday, and it looks like a completely different situation. They went out and they found this woman. This woman's story has so many holes in it, the New York Times will not run it. This story has 12 holes in it that people now have spotted in analysis. There's nothing to it, but the left doesn't care. This is my point from the opening hour. They've got nothing to lose with this depravity. They've got nothing to lose by taking every bit of American culture they can into the gutter. Their base will applaud them. Their base will reward them for this. There is nothing for them to lose. There is no shame directed at them for what they're doing. Interestingly enough, if they weren't trying to get rid of Kavanaugh, their base would be pummeling them to death. Their base is demanding this, not to say the Democrats wouldn't be doing it on their own anyway, but my point is that it wasn't that long ago this kind of thing in American politics would doom the party trying it. And if the Republicans tried it today, it would doom them because the media would turn on them and accuse them of upsetting the Constitution and jurisprudence and ages of case law. They've got nothing to lose here. They don't control the Senate now. They don't control the House. They've got literally nothing to lose. The way they're looking at it, there's nothing, there's no too low they can go. And in the process, they're taking the country right with them, particularly when we're talking politics. David Rodham Gergen on CNN last night with the anchor Ana Cabrera. Question, is it fair to have any timeline at this point for getting through a potential investigation and to eventually putting Kavanaugh up for a vote?
There has to be a couple of days where not only the senators and the White House, but the public can absorb this and begin to make judgments. You know, we need to be a little patient with this process playing out so that, again, I can't tell you how important I think it is to the future of the press in this country, that if he is going to be brought down, that the press is not seen as a complicit in that effort.
Well, now, if you're even thinking about that, then it must be it's already hit you that you are complicit. I mean, what a statement. Stop and think of this. David Rodham Gergen, who has worked for every president you can think of. I can't tell you how important it is to the future of the press in this country that if he's going to be brought down, the press is not seen as complicit. A little too late for that, don't you think, Mr. Gergen? The press cannot be seen as complete. They know, or at least Gergen does. They know that they're damaging their reputation. The press has a lot to lose. The press has market share, subscriptions, advertising rates, jobs. The press has a lot to lose here. The Democrat Party, not so much. The Democrat Party's deranged base, though, does not spend money subscribing to the New York Times or the Washington Post in great numbers. Democrat Party base show up and vote, but they've got nothing to lose with this depravity. But the press does, and Mr. Gergen knows it. Here's Jane Mayer, who co-wrote the story in The New Yorker with Ronan Farrow. She's on the Today Show today with the co-host Savannah Guthrie. The question, your reporting makes clear that Deborah Ramirez was candid about questions her own memory, meaning she doesn't remember much. And she admits that she wasn't sober for much of this party. The White House has zeroed in on a New York Times story saying they can't confirm any of this. It seems like the New Yorker didn't find anybody with firsthand knowledge either. Is that corroboration? So here you have a media person telling another who wrote the story, hey, nobody can corroborate what you wrote. Is there any? And here's
you
the
don't have to read tea leaves. We're right out front about it, and they're saying we found no eyewitnesses who would confirm it. We found somebody who remembers hearing about it that night or the next day.
Okay, stop it. That's all. Stop the tape. Why did the story run then if one of the authors says, we're right out front about it, saying we found no eyewitnesses who could confirm it? Then why did it run? Well, we all know the answer to that. It ran to provide cover for Democrat senators to cancel the hearing on Thursday, and that's gotten too murky, too messy, too dangerous for poor Dr. Ford. She can't be expected to show up now in this circus. She's not going to testify Thursday. Make book on it, folks. It ain't going to happen. This story also gives Democrat senators the excuse to claim, all right, this is it. We've got another allegation. And since women don't lie, and since conservatives have no presumption of innocence, he's guilty. He needs to withdraw. Trump needs to withdraw the nomination. That's what the purpose of this story is. No eyewitnesses. And that's just the tip of the iceberg about things wrong with this story. No eyewitnesses, and yet it ran. Why?
Have you downloaded Rush's radio show app yet?
We streamlined it, made it much more accessible, much more pleasing to the eye. It looks great. We've modernized everything.
Rush's app is free at the Apple Store or Google Play. Now, you can use the app to upgrade to a Rush 24/7 membership and get extras like daily podcast and DiddleCam videos. And never miss another word from the mayor of Realville. You're listening to the EIB Network.
Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
Anita Hill didn't have any eyewitnesses either, ladies and gentlemen, even though she claimed Thomas said that the pubic hair on the Coke can and the long dong silver stuff in front of the entire committee. Even though there was no evidence and no eyewitnesses, she still laid it all out for the committee. So the point is, the woman doesn't need evidence. That's what's being done to the rule of law by these people. They don't need any evidence. The Democrats, there'll be a new video from Hollywood actresses. We believe Ramirez. We believe Ramirez. She's telling the truth, even though the New York Times, the New Yorker say they couldn't find a single witness. See, it doesn't matter. The nature of the evidence, no biggie. Seriousness of the charge, everything. All this is to provide cover for Democrats and the media to demand Kavanaugh just quit and go kill himself. That'd be the best. Just get out of here. Just leave us alone. You have no business being on the Supreme Court, and you're not going to be as long as we have anything to do with it. And that's their attitude. Here's Rhonda, South Bend, Indiana, as we head to the phones. Great to have you, Rhonda. Hi.
Hi, Rush. I am very concerned about this weaponizing of sexuality by the left. I'm sitting here watching the poisoning of our culture by something I'm starting to think of as toxic femininity. Only we're not allowed to say that sometimes women do hurt men. When women use their femininity, or I'm just going to say it, their sexuality to manipulate, to control, to subjugate men, that's wrong, and it's toxic.
No, it's nature.
I'm the mother with the 4 sons. We have talked in the past.
Wait a minute. Hang on just a second. I don't want this going over people's heads. I'm not.
Okay.
When I say that that's nature, I'm saying that there are certain aspects of our humanity which are part of our creation.
Yes.
And remember one time I said the purpose of life is life? Life will do whatever it has to do to keep living. Well, men and women have to get together for that to happen to humanity. Men and women have to get together, not two transgenders and not two gays. Men and women have to get together for the race to propagate and continue. And men are forever chasing women until she catches the guy, is the way it's programmed, the way it works. And women naturally have this ability. Thank God they do. You know, some of this stuff is just nature, and toxic feminism is right. Toxic feminism has attempted to erase and write out some of what nature has created for the male-female relationship. Now, I'm not there. Bad women here, bad men over there. I mean, nobody is saintly, and nobody's clean and pure as the wind-driven snow. But what the left is doing. Toxic femininity is one thing. What they are doing, you're absolutely right in what they're doing in terms of destroying natural sexuality by claiming that all men in their natural state are abusers and predators. This has created. Have you noticed this, Rhonda? Have you noticed the hatred for men that some of these activist political women harbor?
Oh, you're not kidding, Rush. I have the 4 boys. We have spoken in the past, and I have the husband. And I am sick of my men being shamed for simply being men.
Good. Hang on. Do not hang up. I want to continue this with you.
Okay.
Hi, welcome back, and we rejoin Rhonda in South Bend, Indiana. Okay, a little bit more time here. You were starting to say that you are aware of how much hatred, real hatred for men, has been created among women, particularly women who've been college educated the past couple generations. You were going to elaborate on how you know this.
Well, yes, I'm watching well, for one thing, my third son is a political science student at a local university, and he's seen the whole liberal agenda playing out. But I am watching how my sons and my husband are being shamed for simply being men. And I see that they are now entering a world where they have to walk on eggshells, because at any moment an accusation could be leveled against them, and their reputations and their careers can be destroyed.
Right. Around the wrong women, they're guilty for simply being alive.
Yes, it's diabolical, and it's pitting men and women against each other, where, they're looking for women they can respect. They don't hate women, and they don't look at women as just sexual objects. They respect women because they've seen their father model that with me. So when women then respect the men in their lives, it works together just beautifully. So at some point, this is going to backfire, because every woman hears her biological clock ticking.
Well, I wonder about this. Wait. Every woman fears the biological time bomb? What does that have to do with it?
Hears it. Every woman at some point hears the biological clock ticking. And so because then you want to find a spouse or partner to have children with.
No, not anymore. Not anymore. It's called go to the sperm bank with your female husband. It's called go to the sperm bank, find a way to have a kid or adopt. But no, young women are being so poisoned about what men are or can be that many of them are foregoing all of that, and they're resisting the tug of nature, because the tug of nature is going to pull them toward men, but they're trying to resist it because of what they've been taught. And so there are a lot of, look at the single parent, female head of households that are burgeoning in the country right now.
And that has such a detrimental effect to our country. I know this isn't popular, Rush, but it is just simply true. A child needs, if at all possible, I understand there's divorce and all that, needs a dad and a mom. because there are things that only a dad can give.
That's
and
old
there are
thinking.
things-
See, that's you're dating yourself. That's antiquated. That's been proven as socially incorrect thinking. That's one of these many traditions that we've got to bust up and blow to smithereens according to the modern era of social justice.
Yes, but look at the fruit of it.
The fruit of it, be careful. The fruit of it, what do you mean? Oh, you mean the results? Yeah. The results. Absolutely. Look, Rhonda, I'm so glad that you called. She said that there's going to be a backlash. I wonder about this. Let me go back to my proffered opinion today that's inarguable, that the left has nothing to lose with what they're doing. That in itself constitutes what I think is a major, major cultural depravity, a major cultural dissent. That a lawyer for a porn star can come out, Michael Avenatti, like he did last night, send a letter, send an email to one of the lawyers in the Judiciary Committee, claiming that he's got a witness, multiple witnesses, to the fact that Brett Kavanaugh and Mark Judge routinely got women drunk and gave them the date rape pill so as to start a rape train at these parties. Get the women drunk and pilled up, and then a train of men would go in and out of the room all night, taking their turn. And he's demanding to be heard. He's demanding that the committee let him come in and testify, since they're going to be talking to Christine Ballsy Ford. Now, it wasn't that long ago that even this New Yorker story features with no witnesses, with no corroboration, that Kavanaugh was waving a dildo around in women's faces. It wasn't that long ago. If you tried that, you would pay a humongous price at the polls. The most recent example of it backfiring on Democrats that I can think of would be the Wellstone Memorial in 2002. It backfired. Is it going to backfire on them this time? By all that is decent, the Democrats in the past 10 days alone should have guaranteed that they lose seats in the House and Senate. If this country is populated by majority decent people. There is simply no way in the America you and I grew up in that this kind of depravity and indecency is rewarded. Certainly not at the ballot box. I think if you want to trace the modern beginning of the exoneration of this kind of behavior for Democrats, it'd be Bill Clinton. And maybe prior to that. But take a look at the 180 degrees opposite treatment. Here is Clinton, who literally did what he did. Hillary Clinton knew it and became the head of the operations in the Clinton White House to discredit the women that came forward with allegations about her husband. She is rewarded for that. She is said to be a courageous victim, but she held her marriage together and she held her husband's presidency together. She saved the Democrat Party. She is a heroine for trashing the women that came forward. Ted Kennedy murders a woman. Let me rephrase. Ted Kennedy is present as a woman's death that he caused. And he ends up becoming the lion of the Senate with immense respect throughout the Washington establishment, including the drive-by media. Brett Kavanaugh is accused of things that there is no evidence that he has done, that there are no eyewitnesses for what he's done. In the Christine Ford story, 4 of the people she claims were in the room say they weren't. She can't remember the year or the place or the specific date. And yet they want to throw Brett Kavanaugh off every court. They want to deny his nomination to the Supreme Court. And it's only 20 years since these same people were trashing the kind of women they now bring forward and celebrate as heroines because they are helping to destroy a conservative. So you tell me, where is our culture today? Where is the majority of our society? Because by all rights, even, I'm going to guess here, but I would think that even decent women looking at this would have a real problem with this because of the lack of any evidence, the suspiciousness of the timing, the very fact that it is totally political and orchestrated at the last minute when they'd failed at every other effort they made to keep Kavanaugh off the court. Then this thing pops up suspiciously, politically, and now they're finding other women when Christine Ford's story is starting to fall apart. And now we've got dildos and rape trains and so forth, and alcohol and pills and so forth. At what point do the people making these allegations just pay a general price in society at large? Yeah, these people think that they're going to sail to a massive blue wave victory in November. They believe that a majority of Americans believe, as they do, that Brett Kavanaugh is filth, that Brett Kavanaugh is so disgusting he doesn't deserve to be on the Supreme Court. They believe that they are speaking for a majority of Americans. But even if they didn't believe that, it wouldn't change what they're doing, because there's no political price for them to pay in their minds. Their base wants this. Their base is demanding this depravity. Their base is demanding. I have here a screenshot of something I saw on Fox News. This would have been a couple, 3 days and nights ago. And it is a sample of emails that Amy Kavanaugh is receiving. The mainstream media is not reporting any of this. If it weren't for Fox News, this would never have appeared on TV. There are 3 excerpts of 3 emails sent to Amy Kavanaugh, and I'm going to read them to you. I'm going to give you a countdown. I'm not going to say the unmentionable words, but you'll know what they are. But if you're listening with young ears, you don't want to hear, I'm going to count down from 5, and they should turn the radio off for like 45 seconds and come back. Ready? 5, 4. Remember, when I get to 1, if you still listen and you find it objectionable and complain, it'll fall on deaf ears because you have been warned. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Email sent to Amy Kavanaugh. Please tell your rapist, lying, cheating, corrupt, B.I.itch of a husband to put a bullet in his ugly F-bomb skull. Another email to Amy Kavanaugh. Hey, B.I.itch. Did you know your husband was a rapist before you married him? Another email to Amy Kavanaugh. Your husband is a liar, a thief, a rapist, and probably a pedophile. Burn in hell. What was the proudest day in the Kavanaugh family life was ruined by a circus of protesters welcomed into the hearing room by the Democrat Party. Remember the picture of Mr. and Mrs. Kavanaugh, the parents, with their heads buried in their hands. They were ashamed. On the day that should have been one of the proudest days of their lives, the left ruined it with a smile, with laughter and with glee. Kavanaugh's young daughters were there and had to witness it as well, not to mention his wife. And now Democrat voters are sending this stuff to Brett Kavanaugh's wife. And still, they hang in for this nomination. Because Brett Kavanaugh is a patriot, in addition to being a brilliant scholar and legal mind. My point is exactly this. This is a Democrat base, and they are demanding this treatment of Kavanaugh. The Democrat Party expects to be rewarded by their base with massive turnout. They believe independents are so outraged at what Kavanaugh has done. They're so mad at what Kavanaugh's gotten away with, they can't wait to show up and vote against him. And everybody wants to vote against Kavanaugh, really, because everybody hates Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Donald Trump draws tens of thousands of people at every rally he attends, with double that number outside, unable to get in. Barack Obama can't draw more than 700 people to his rallies. And I'm not making that up. 700 people max. And then Michael Moore. Michael Moore has this new movie called Fahrenheit 11/9. I guess he's run out of creativity. Fahrenheit 9/11 with his first movie, Anti-Bush, did well, got an Oscar for the thing. So it's time to go back to the drawing board, rework it for Trump. Fahrenheit 11/9. Guess what? Up there at the Toronto Film Festival, it's voted the 8th or 9th best flick of all of those that were shown. And its opening weekend tanked at $3 million, taken in with over 1,000 screens. Now, does that add up to a big blue wave? I mean, you would think that these Democrats demanding this kind of depraved behavior from their elected Democrats cannot wait to get out there and vote. Then why aren't they showing up for Moore's movie? And why aren't more than 700 showing up for the great Obama as he embarks on whatever he is doing? Yeah, Michelle Obama supposedly doing pretty well on a book tour, but note that Michelle Obama is totally into Michelle Obama, not this other stuff. She's out selling herself, not bashing Trump per se by design and by purpose. So I don't know. Is there a backlash out there that's waiting to be? Are decent women fed up with what the Democrats are doing or not? You hope, but you just don't know.
You're listening to Rush Limbaugh,
The big voice on the right.
on the EIB network.
Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
Samantha, Franklin, Tennessee. You're next. It's great to have you with us. Hi.
Hi, Rush. It's really a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
I agree completely that she will not be there Thursday, because how can you go under oath and then the answer to every question be, I don't know?
Wait a minute.
I don't know.
Wait.
I don't remember.
Wait. You may be more informed than I. Which on this is possible? Because I've gotten so ticked off at this story that there are aspects of it I'm avoiding because I don't think she's going to be there either. Has she agreed to testify under oath? Remember, her original conditions were not under oath, and she wanted to go last. She wanted Kavanaugh to go first, which again turns presumed innocence upside down. She had all these conditions, and one of them was not under oath. So do we know for sure that she has agreed to testify under oath?
Well, I guess not. But I mean, how else can do this? So here's the thing with me. For a visual, so the reason why they don't want a lawyer questioning her is they need the visual of the mean, vicious Republicans not believing her. You know, and something may well have happened to this woman. Look, I'm a woman. Stuff has happened to me. I get it. But there's a level of, at this point, they have pushed it to where she has to be, we have to have that visual.
Well, I agree with that.
Regular human beings.
They want to pay back. They want to get even for Anita Hill, in addition to everything else.
Yes. But see, everything I read, which is all speculation, all of it. But when you start thinking about it, they have to have the visual of the mean Republican old white men speaking to her. They have to have... I
don't think they need it. I think in their minds, all they have to do is say, she's not going to show up. She can't, now that this has turned into a circus, she knows she'll be mistreated by the Republicans. That's all they got to say in their minds. Then the press is off and running with it, reporting it as though it has already happened. Look, I got to go because of time. I appreciate it. Amy Kavanaugh might be one of Kavanaugh's daughters. I thought it was his wife, but it was still the emails are accurate.
You're listening to Rush Limbaugh,
America's gift to broadcasting
on the EIB network.
Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
Yeah, that's not good. You light a cigar and there's no smoke. It means there's a little hole in it somewhere. Yeah, what a bummer. But easily fixable. Greetings, welcome back. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone, executing assigned host duties flawlessly, featuring zero mistakes, either accidental or intentional. Phone number if you want to call, 800-282-2882. The White House just released a letter written by Judge Kavanaugh to the Senate Judiciary Committee, particularly the Honorable Charles Grassley, the committee chairman, the Honorable Dianne Feinstein, the ranking member. And what it indicates is that we have in Kavanaugh a fighter just like Trump. Oh, by the way, apparently I erred, ladies and gentlemen. I assume that Amy Kavanaugh was Kavanaugh's wife, the recipient of those despicable, disgusting, insulting emails. Actually, Amy Kavanaugh must be one of his daughters, which makes it actually even worse. His wife's name is Ashley. And when I make a mistake, it is so infrequent that when I make a mistake, people just jump all over it. They jump in there, they start pointing fingers, they tell everybody. Most people are allowed to learn from their mistakes, not I. Oh, no. When I make them, it's a serious, serious breach. And I wouldn't even call that a mistake. I mean, that was just an incorrect assumption. The substance, however, was not changed by whoever was sent those emails. In this letter that Kavanaugh has written, and the White House released this, so this is not Kavanaugh into the White House standing by Kavanaugh. Trump is standing by Kavanaugh. In this letter to Grassley and Feinstein, Kavanaugh says, I will not be intimidated into withdrawing from this process. The coordinated effort to destroy my good name will not drive me out. The vile threats of violence against my family will not drive me out. The last-minute character assassinations will not drive me out. Dear Chairman Grassley and Ranking Member Feinstein, when I testified in front of the Senate 3 weeks ago, I explained my belief that fair process is foundational to justice and to our democracy. At that time, I sat before the committee for more than 31 hours and answered questions under oath. I then answered more questions at a confidential session. The following week, I responded to more than 1,200 written questions, more than have been submitted to all previous Supreme Court nominees combined. 1,200, 1,200 letters, questions. That's more questions submitted in writing than all previous nominees have received combined. Only after that exhaustive process was complete did I learn through the news media about a 36-year-old allegation from high school that had been asserted months earlier and withheld from me throughout the hearing process. First, it was an anonymous allegation that I categorically and unequivocally denied. Soon after, the accuser was identified. I repeated my denial on the record and made clear that I wished to appear before your committee. I then repeated my denial to committee investigators under criminal penalties for false statements. All of the witnesses identified by Dr. Ford as being present at the party she describes are on the record to the committee, saying they have no recollection of any such party happening. By the way, that's true. The committee has investigators who have been talking to these people while all of this has been going on, and all four of the people that Dr. Ford names have denied being there. I asked to testify before the committee again under oath as soon as possible, so that both Dr. Ford and I could both be heard. I thank Chairman Grassley for scheduling that hearing for Thursday. Last night, another false and uncorroborated accusation from 35 years ago was published. Once again, those alleged to have been witnesses to the event deny it ever happened. There is now a frenzy to come up with something, anything, that will block this process and block a vote on my confirmation from occurring. These are smears, pure and simple. They debase our public discourse, but they are also a threat to any man or woman who wishes to serve our country. Such grotesque and obvious character assassination, if allowed to succeed, will dissuade competent and good people of all political persuasion from service. That's right, and that's exactly what the left wants. Make no mistake. The left would be happy if all decent people punted and said, I want nothing to do with government. Nothing would make them happier. Judge Kavanaugh is exactly right about that. He continues, as I told the committee during my hearing, a federal judge must be independent, not swayed by public or political pressure. That's the kind of judge I will always be. I will not be intimidated into withdrawing from this process. The coordinated effort to destroy my good name will not drive me out. The vile threats of violence against my family will not drive me out. The last-minute character assassinations will not succeed. I have devoted my career to serving the public in the cause of justice, and particularly to promoting the equality and dignity of women. Women from every phase of my life have come forward to attest to my character, and I'm grateful to them. I owe it to them and to my family to defend my integrity and my name. I look forward to answering questions from the Senate on Thursday. Sincerely, Brett Kavanaugh. Well, he may be there, but he'll be the only witness. Meaning, I don't think Dr. Ford will show up. And particularly now, she's got more reason not to show up. Kavanaugh simply refuses to go away. Kavanaugh simply will not admit it. Therefore, I can't. I don't feel safe with him. No, I can't. I won't. Especially like Kavanaugh gets to go last. How about her stipulated conditions? Not under oath. Kavanaugh goes first. Kavanaugh can't be in the room when I am. Yeah, it was a demand. If they agreed to that, well, they didn't. They haven't. They didn't. But that's what I meant in the first hour. They are standing. I don't know any other. America. The United States of America is an exceptional, different, and unique country for a host of reasons. And at the top of the list of those reasons is our system of justice. The rule of law. The rule of law is what equalizes everybody in the eyes of justice, which are blind by definition. And it is fundamental in our system that anybody accused is presumed innocent, and the people doing the accusing have to prove it. In tin horn dictatorships, in communist countries, in totalitarian regimes, it is true that the accused is automatically guilty. This is what the left seeks, particularly in politicized events. And since they've politicized everything, this is what they seek. Once accused, a conservative is guilty and will be denied, if they can do it, a chance to prove innocence. But regardless, the accused is guilty. The accuser need not provide evidence. The accuser need not provide corroboration. The word of the accuser is all that is needed, particularly in politicized events involving men and women. That stands America on its head. If that ever became our rule of law, that would be the end of the rule of law. It would be the end of America as you and I know it in the criminal justice system. It would be the end of any effort to exonerate oneself against any charge, false, legitimate, what have you. The burden has always been on the accuser, the prosecutor, to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. What the left is angling for is outside of court, the establishment that in politicized events, the accuser is always right because they are always going to be the accusers. It is part of their politics to accuse their opponents of crimes, including thinking differently is a crime. Being conservative has become a crime on the left, a prosecutable, punishable offense. Witness A for this is Brett Kavanaugh. Prior to him, it was Judge Bork. Then came Clarence Thomas. So the American justice system is in the process of being stood upside down. And it's been taking place in our educational system. I don't know how many generations, at least one, a generation is 20 to 25 years. So maybe as many as 2 generations of young people have been taught today that the American system of justice is destroying conservatives. Conservatives equal old white men who just need to shut up finally and go away and let everybody clean up the mess that they have made of the world. So the American system of justice, as taught to young skulls full of mush, is destroying conservatives, however and whenever. That is what young people have been taught justice is. And that's why such treatment of Kavanaugh is applauded. It's considered to be justice because Kavanaugh is guilty. He's a conservative. And that means he did whatever the left thinks of all conservatives. He did it because he's conservatives abuse women. Conservatives oppose women and minorities. Conservatives want you to suffer. This and that. This is what people have been taught. I want to ask some of you a question. I know you'll never be able to answer it, but I just want you to see the answer for yourselves in your lives. I got a note recently from a new grandmother. A woman's daughter has just given birth to twins. And the woman's daughter has several friends. And the woman told me that her daughter and friends, not her daughter because her daughter's twins were girls, but she told me that young millennial new mothers feel very bad that their children are boys in the age of Weinstein and all of these sexual abusers. Now stop and think about that. They are disappointed that their child is a boy. Now these are women who had the baby, so I know what you're thinking. Well, maybe they might start aborting. Yeah, nothing would surprise me on that side of the score. But just the fact that because of media coverage of Weinstein representing all men. See, this is what the left does. Weinstein, even though he's a liberal Democrat, even though he's a Clintonista, Weinstein has come to represent all men. Ditto Leslie Moonves at CBS. They're all liberal Democrats. Bill Clinton, liberal Democrat. These are all guys who did it. Bill Cosby, liberal Democrat. They're all liberal Democrats, the guys who did it. Clarence Thomas didn't do it. Kavanaugh didn't do it. But because of the coverage of this by the drive-bys, and no doubt what these women were taught in women's studies classes, they now feel remorseful that their child is a little boy. And they were heard to say that they're going to have to work really hard to raise a good young man. This is how subtle it is. So young mothers think that they are raising young predators in waiting, and they're frightened by it. Now, who could make that happen? Who could cause that kind of an attitude among young mothers? Yep, that's right, the American left and the drive-by media. Anyway, as to Brett Kavanaugh, thank God for his spine. Thank God for his backbone and his stick-to-itiveness and his, well, he likes himself. He's not ashamed. He's not embarrassed. He does got nothing to apologize for. And he is a perfect nominee from Donald Trump. in this regard. It will have no effect on the left, by the way. They will twist and turn his letter into confirmation that the allegations are true. Why else would he be so panicked, they will say. Why else would he go to such great lengths to defend himself if it weren't true, they will say. I've been there. I've seen it. This is how they react. Oh, look, we got Kavanaugh. He wrote a letter. He's now denying it. That means we got him. And they'll start on this new thing that Kavanaugh has now admitted his culpability with this flat-out denial. Must be worried that people are believing it, they will say. That's how it all works. I understand also that Senator Orrin Hatch is really, really angry at all of this last-minute charade behavior going on by the accusers and their sponsors. I hope he's not the only one. Let's take another brief break. We'll be back with much
Take
more in a
on the
moment.
left with a Limbaugh letter. In the next issue, Rush talks Trump with former federal prosecutor Sidney Powell.
I asked her point blank, when do you think the Mueller investigation is going to end?
Read her unnerving answer only in the Limbaugh letter. Rush's potent weapon of truth. Available in digital and print editions at rushlimbaugh.com. You're listening to the EIB Network.
Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
Say, somebody in our audience shared with us just how effective LifeLock is detecting identity theft as it happens. This is kind of cool. Online identity theft is a silent crime. It happens when you don't know it is happening. You may not know for months or weeks afterwards that your identity has been hacked and that somebody is defrauding you. It takes a while. LifeLock's monitoring systems very often notice real soon, sometimes at the moment. LifeLock's computer programs are looking at more than 1 billion online transactions every day, looking for patterns of unusual spending behavior on the part of all of their members, and unusual spending behaviors suggest fraud on an account. So when LifeLock spots something, they're in touch with you quickly, even if it's a Sunday afternoon. Now, in this case, they noticed a rash of sudden online purchases at fast food restaurants, pizza chains, even the purchase of a season-long NFL Game Pass, and all of this happened within 30 minutes' time. LifeLock's restoration team was quick to be involved, and they helped to obtain information. And sure enough, information from a credit card used earlier in the day at a gas station pump had in fact been stolen. It was all shut down within an hour. So a LifeLock member got an alert that asking, are you buying NFL Game Pass? Did you just charge a bunch of stuff at a lot of restaurants and pizza chains and all that? And the user said, no, I didn't. LifeLock's restoration team shut it down within an hour. It was easy to restore the mistakes made by the fraudsters within that time. That's one of the greatest illustrations of how LifeLock